Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? All right. Apologies for the time. Apologies for the time. Apologies for the time. But we got a 40-minute video coming out on Tuesday. It is a long one. We got a big one coming Tuesday. Holy shit, let me catch up on supers real quick. And real quick, I have other good news for you guys. Here's my exchange for being late. I have translations. Legit translations. No offense to TCB, but they fucked it up pretty fucking bad this time. All right? So we're going to putting out the real translations, translated by Jasser. Good source. He breaks it down fairly in depth. So we have our good translations, okay? Are these going to be 100% what Viz says? Maybe, maybe not. But Viz, let's just say this. TCB's translation is incorrect from literally the first line on the mural. So, I'm sorry that, I'm sorry people went too far into theory crafting and everything like that. Yeah, the TCB translation is incorrect from literally the first line. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let me hit these supers, then I'll pull up the better translation, and we can roll with that. Madfish, thanks for the 10. What's on the rest of the red line? Massive continent that circles the whole globe, and as far as I know, we only know about that one city. Hey, thanks for your fifth super ever. So, Ray Striker says OP scans greater than TCB. Interestingly, this time OP scans was more on the dot than TCB. If you read what the spoilers initially were, the spoilers that were first coming out, and you read OP scans, they are pretty in sync. TCB's is very different from those two, and then the new translations that I have are very similar to OP scans and the initial spoilers. TCB, it appears, took a lot of creative liberties, an insane amount of creative liberties, because they were trying to be particularly poetic with the language for no real reason. So we're gonna no, we're not adding any late points. Read the OP scan still sucks. Yeah, overall TCB way better. Overall TCB is still my favorite scanlation to read generally. But I don't know. I'm curious what Viz will put out, because depending on what Viz puts out is dramatically different than TCB. I think TCB could get some significant backlash this time, because a lot of people are myself included, a lot of people are putting a lot of theories and stuff out that are very elaborately crafted based on TCB's translation, which is not good, because it's just people are putting a lot of time and effort into just something that is not correctly translated. If you want, I'll put up the correct translations short. The correct translations is in what it appears more accurate translations are to be. Obviously, we should wait on Viz, and we should wait on Sandman. He'll shed some light. Okay, so as for Madfish, as for the rest of the red line, I don't know if there's anything else on the red line, honestly, because I think the red line is ultimately supposed to be fairly symbolic. I don't think the Celestial Dragons would allow others to live on the red line. Bunfagum, thank you so much for the 30. Holy shit, you must have enjoyed the chapter. Thanks so much. Superb chapter on so many levels. Uranus and Poseidon are clearly present. Yep. Except for Pluton, unless it's the whale. I think Franky is the stand-in for Pluton, as he's framed as part of the mural itself. Franky stocks up. That is a phenomenal call, saying that Franky may... Oh my god, holy shit. Franky might be covering up Pluton, or Franky's just symbolically Pluton itself. That is a phenomenal point, and I'm so fucking happy. This chapter was... Sorry for the voice crack. This chapter was the best chapter, the most important thing that Franky has done narratively in, no joke, 700 chapters. 700 chapters. I am so fucking happy for what Oda's potentially doing for Franky this arc. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. Good to see you, man. How Luffy batted for Shanks is exactly how Dragon should have done for Sabo. You're right. You know what's fucking hilarious? I used to roast the shit out of Dragon for immediately being like, oh my god, it's in the news. I gotta believe the news. We always believe the news, when he fucking knows the whole fucking world is built on propaganda shilled by people like Big News Morgans. I'm just like, what the fuck? This dude's the leader of the revolutionary? And at that point in time, because Dragon still had aura, people were really like, Morj, you should give Dragon some slack, etc. Blah 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 blah. Then what's funny is that when the Ginny situation happened, everybody else turned on Dragon, and I'm having to drop videos defending why, like, no, this isn't actually a bad thing. Like, it makes perfect fucking sense why Dragon wouldn't just drop all the revolutionaries' plans and go to war with the Celestial Dragons over Ginny, when their plan is already to go to war with the Celestial Dragons to free all the other slaves that are up there, which is what their, like, core goal is, right? Anyway, but I do think that Dragon going to bat for Shanks is exactly how Dragon should have done for Sabo, because it's fucking stupid. Like, that means that Dragon has pretty much no faith in his first mate. Also, Emu and like, people are like, well, Dragon's just saying he needs to wait and assess the situation. It's like, dude, if you need to wait and reassess your right-hand man's character anytime any slight bit of misinformation is passed your way, how the fuck are you able to function? Like, Luffy heard these eyewitness reports that were bad about Shanks, and he was immediately like, no, I know that's not true because I trust this person, right? What the fuck's wrong with Dragon? Also, Emu with the Ancient Kingdom, tax clears the Beppo victim for final villain. It depends, because we don't know what role Blackbeard might have in all this. Okay, to be clear, well, actually, Blackbeard, I got a huge-ass video coming out, guys. I got a 40-minute video on its way. First of all, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. We got a lot to talk about here. Because this chapter was fucking nuts. I got a huge video coming this way. I don't actually talk about Blackbeard as much in this, because I think it is currently a little bit too early to talk about how Blackbeard confidently, maybe other people have better ideas, I think it is a little bit too early to confidently claim how Blackbeard plays into all this, but I think he's going to be huge still. Otherworlds JT, thanks for the 10. Funny how Zoro believes being a strong swordsman has nothing to do with being a man, yet there are no distinguishable strong swordswomen. Yeah. Well, Zoro also does doubt women based on his interaction with Tashigi, so I'm not really sure what Zoro's, like, growth was from Kuina's incident. And do you think Shanks' Griffin has fire ability because a Devil Fruit too? That would be cool. That would be cool. I mean, if Shanks has honestly, I think it was kind of lame, because I do prefer Shanks just having Haki. So I thought on first glance I was like, that's cool. I feel like Shamrock using that almost was like, it was cool that his sword has that ability, but at the same time it's like, yeah, that's like a Celestial Dragon thing to do. Have your sword do your dirty work for you, you know? Eagle Train, thanks for the 2. Pick 1 Bollywood dance or 2 One Piece never finishes. Obviously, I would do a Bollywood dance over One Piece never finishing, you know? But still, that's like the stakes at which I would have to do a Bollywood dance are very, very high. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Sean Easton, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 24 months. Holy shit, wait, the Pirate King podcast submissions should be opening up right now. Let me make sure I'm doing that as well. The people of the Half Moon are the D tribe. I agree, that's how I'm interpreting it. Heard you're going to Colorado. Go to Marco's Coal Fired and get the Hell's Kitchen pizza if you can. They also make it gluten-free if needed. I'm a Colorado native. Oh, shit! Okay, so I've actually been to Denver once before, so we'll see if we can do that. The trip that I did, we went to the Rockies, and we didn't do any skiing though. We did some hiking. And then we went to Denver for a little bit. So we got to see a little bit of downtown Denver, but nothing like crazy actually. Hold on. Let me just see one thing. Yeah, and if you want to join the Pirate King tier, Pirate King podcast submissions, I'm putting them up right now. Hold on here. Hold on a second here. Yeah, let me post this shit. So for those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast is basically for my top tier of members, Pirate King tier members, or patrons, basically. And you can submit any question that you like, and I'll answer it very in-depth, and it doesn't have to be One Piece. It can be other anime, manga, real life, sports, blah, 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 video games. I answered very, very in-depth in an hour-and-a-half long podcast. I answer every single person. All right. Let me post this. All right. Let me post that there, and I'll post it on Patreon, too. Sorry about that. End of the month. Should have had it up already. Okay. Better practice that Bollywood dance, buddy, says L. Oh, L, thanks for gifting 5 memberships, man. Holy shit, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. I mean, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I think the theory that I just cranked out is fucking phenomenal. I think it's really, really, really fucking good. Small clue, I actually draw upon and I reference another creator's theory, Hidden Island, who is I think, a phenomenal theorist. It's a shame that he has left the community for the moment. I don't know if he'll be back, but it is a very, very dense theory, and I think it just puts together a whole shit ton of stuff. Am I doing this correctly? Yeah. All right. Thanks for the memberships, man. Everybody in the chat say thanks to L, because if you're lucky enough, L might gift you some memberships. L has gifted memberships in the past. I really, really appreciate it. Would read everybody out, but I don't have. There's just too big of a backlog of supers at the moment. L says we want points. No points. You're getting a 40-minute video. This is. Come on, you guys got to give me a break here. This is an emergency chapter. The script that I wrote took so fucking long. It was all because one, I had to fucking scrap elements of the original script because the translations were not good. The translations weren't good, so I had to go like. Initially, I'm reading OP scans, okay? I'm reading OP scans, so I'm getting one version of translations. Then I'm comparing it to, okay, well, what do the spoilers say? Does this make sense? I'm like, okay, this is somewhat consistent. Then TCB comes out. Translations are totally different, so it's like, okay, scrapping several things. And then it's just like, why was TCB so different compared to spoilers and OP scans? And then Jasper's coming through, giving me a very in-depth breakdown, Japanese kanji by Japanese kanji, of like, no, man, this is what it actually is, and OP scans and the spoilers were much more accurate, and he points out all the places that TCB is a little incorrect, starting from literally the first line. So then I'm like, okay, scrapping this shit again, let's go again. Like, all of it's, like, similar, but changing shape, basically. And so writing from last night all the way through today, and then I started recording, and recording took me an hour and a half. The script should probably, like, the video itself should be 40 minutes, and then I had to take dogs, and then now I'm here. But yeah, it was a fucking process. It was a process. Let's see. Yeah, no penalties for this. No penalties for this. Come on. This chapter is an emergency. This chapter is a next level emergency, right? This chapter is just, what the hell is this? Okay. All right. Should be good. Yeah, this chapter was just a special case. Let's call it a special case. JK Kane, thanks for the 5. I bet you were doing the Birdman hand rub while reading the last panel. No. While reading the last panel, my jaw dropped. I was just like, this is too much. Genuinely, it's too much. Like, when we got all of that, it was overwhelming. It was genuinely overwhelming, and I was like a lot of things didn't snap into place initially. It took a lot of like going back, processing, thinking before like certain things started to fall into place, and then the shifting translations did not help. Here, let me make a little thing for you guys so that you guys can see the translations. Here we go. I'll just call this Better Translations. Better Translations. Okay. Here we go. Let me pull it up for you. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Copy image. All right. I'm trying to set it up for you guys. Give me a second here. Copy image. All right. Formatting is a little tricky here. All right. And then lastly, one more. I'll show you guys in a second. All right. Okay. think this is the best I can do. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, let me share with you guys. Give me a second here. Well, I guess you guys have been giving me a second. All right, here we go. Yeah, okay. So, for context, ignore the orange text. I mean, orange text adds a little bit more context, but this is Jasser. He's a native or not native Jap. He's not a native Jap. Sorry. But he is very studied in Japanese, and he has provided more accurate translations in the past. Okay, you can read through this. The orange is a bit of... So, for context, he gave me a bunch of translations yesterday, and then this morning he gave me some revised translations as well. So, the orange is him explaining his revisions, okay? So, this is like, imagine a second go-through of him looking at the So, he retranslated it for me once, and then this is him retranslating it again. So, that's why there's still orange here. Just read the blue, basically, as his final version of translations. You guys see all this shit okay? You guys see all this shit okay? And he told me it's fine to share this. All right, continuing on. You guys can read this in the background. L, thanks for the 5. I'll forgive you if you was smoking a Fat J because you look higher than Zunisha's balls. I'll say if I look high, it's literally just because Zunisha's balls would be pretty high up. It's just because I'm fucking tired. I'm tired. I've been writing all night, all morning. I fit in a chapter review in there somewhere all day. Then I barely had time to eat, and then I hit recorded for an hour and a half, then rushed to take out dogs and everything, and now I'm launching straight into stream, and after this I'm setting some instructions over to the editor. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. We got 1,000 people in here. Let's get the stream likes up to 300 because we got the good translations now. If you guys like the good translations, let's get the likes up to 300. MK Ultraman, thanks for the 2. Is there still hope for Usopp to get something? For sure there's still hope. I think Usopp's going to be very important to Elbaf. It's just not that time yet. Muhammad D. Luffy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 25 months. The best chapter of 2025 already. Oda is cooking. Oda in 2025? How many chapters has he dropped? Like 2? And they've both been fucking amazing, right? 3? Like, Oda's on something right now. Elbaf is set to be an all-time great One Piece arc. Easily. Lars Caesar, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 10 months and saying One Piece. Again, for those of you who want to get in on the Pirate King tier, I will be recording the podcast soon. You have time to get in submissions right now for what you want me to talk about and address. It's a podcast. I'd record for about an hour and a half. I answer every single person's question very in-depth, a lot more in-depth than I do on streams, and it can be about anything. One Piece, other anime, other manga, movies, video games, real life, NBA, whatever the fuck you want. So if you want to get in on that, you can become either a Pirate King level member on YouTube or on Patreon. Let me fly through these. Not fly through these, but let me start moving a little bit faster. Blazing Blue. My voice is cracking. Blazing Blue, thanks for the 20. I know you aren't a Wano fan, but this has a lot of connections. Yeah, the third world being the final act or end, very similar to Wano's 3 acts. Oh, I didn't think about that. The third world being flooded like Wano, as well as having walls around it. Yep. I think that, walls around it, we can get into that later. But the 3 acts, that's a huge point. I think that's a very, very interesting point. I like that. B, thanks for the 5. The mural is distracting everyone from Ripley's words. This is One Piece where dreams are everything. Her words are not put there as coincidence. Watch out for this Tuesday's video. Because dreams are fucking important. I 100% agree. It's the key to all of this shit. JWP, thanks for coming through and gifting 5 subs. I kind of want to... As usual, thanks so much, man. Everybody in this stream is always happy when you come through just because you're always happy to gift us, random people in chat, this stuff. Seriously, man. Really, really appreciate it. Hold on. All right. Continuing on. Stride Shaco, thanks for the 5. Random, possibly Harold tore out his horns as part of a deal with the world government. Had to tear out to become Celestial Dragon, prove dedication. They wouldn't accept him with home. The Harold thing is really complicated because ultimately, in terms of what Harold did for his country, he's one of the best kings in all of One Piece history. right? A thing that is reiterated many times, like go back to Read Dressrosa. So much of the theming is basically like trying to create a very militant nation is not good. Nations should be about kindness, peace. Like that's what a good nation is like. Harold not only turned Elbaf, which was like a violent country, into a very peaceful one, which is objectively good, according to the themes of One Piece, at least. He also introduced education and like schooling. Like he commissioned Saul to create a school for the kids of Elbaf. So if there's some sinister aspect behind Harold's rule, I think it'd be very I don't know, maybe a queen was the one that made him do like because the things that he did for the country are objectively really, really good. It's hard to say. And like Zoro even praised his conviction. So I don't know. I think appearances we might be deceiving. It's hard to say. Like the same way that Loki seemed like a really scary, bad dude initially. He's turning out to be a good guy. I don't think we should judge Harold right off the bat just by that. Judge by his actions, not by his looks. Although maybe he is an asshole. We don't know. We're almost at 300 likes. Let's get it up to 300 likes. We're almost there. Madfish, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. Thanks for joining. Get your submission in, man. It just opened up. Eagle Train, thanks for the 2. Luffy will eat the Mother Flame. Final power-up versus Emu. That's an interesting idea. I have heard that before. And I see a lot of people referring to the flame that is being held as the Mother Flame. It is a little more complicated than that, although the Mother Flame is a big part of everything. Dick So Small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Blackbeard and Luffy are always disruptors who shake everything off the rails. Falling in line to prophecy means nothing for them. Blackbeard's still big bad. Yeah, I think Blackbeard could very well still be the big bad. I do see a route to that. I'm 50-50 at this point, honestly. Jin Mori255, thanks for the 10. Have you seen the Roger Pirate memes? Streets saying they were running from smoke with Emu after learning the true history, LMAO. I don't think that's the case. I think that we need certain things to literally fall into place that would have happened post-Roger's lifespan. I think that's becoming more and more clear that certain things, potentially things that we were even sent forward through time, if you think about that, could only take place after Roger's lifespan. So there was nothing that he could really do physically in the time that he had. Nicholas Nick, thanks for being a Pirate King or Yonko tier member for 10 months, man. Shamrock's ability is kind of lame and doesn't seem that strong / impressive. Also, weed is illegal here in Brazil, and that sucks. I have to smoke crappy weed. Weed is illegal in the United States, too, but you're able to get decent weed here, I think. I mean, I don't have any outside countries' weed to compare it by, but that's my opinion. I do think that the Cerberus fruit, it's, like, cool because it's Cerberus, but what it functionally does is just be a dog with 3 heads, which doesn't mean jack shit now in One Piece. Maybe the fact that it can separate is cool. It might just be a convenience thing for Shamrock, and like it's a way to avoid having him actually have to lift a finger. So I think we'll actually get to see him fight later on. The Goat, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 7 months. Make sure to get your question in for the month, man. Thanks for the long time support. Hey Morj, hope you're doing well. Going through a rough time in my life right now, but watching your streams and videos always helps me get through it. Thanks for being the Goat. Thanks, man. I do appreciate it. Thank you sincerely. Seriously, thanks for the long time support, man. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Wisdom Minari, thanks for the 10. Those 3 shadowy figures were the ancient weapons, right? Even more evidence for the multiple sun gods theory. Great chapter, Morj. How's this mural related to Enel's mural? Also great hair, Morj. Hey, thank you. I don't know if those 3 shadowy figures are all ancient weapons. I think it's complicated. I think, unfortunately, a lot of these answers I'm going to explain in much greater detail in Tuesday's video. It is a very, very, very dense video, but I do think that it's, I think that it puts a shit ton of shit together. And most importantly, it explains a lot of what's going, it just explains, in my opinion, it explains pretty much everything that you see there. As for how it's related to Enel's Moon mural, I think that Enel's Moon mural laid the foundation of certain things, such as showing the ancient weapons, showing the people of the moon, which is referenced in the Second World text, and showing us a glimpse of the Mother Flame, which is going to be important as well. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 10. This chapter expanded the world so much. What's crazy is that it expanded the world, but at the same time, it's all been there already, and it kind of just links it all together. I could really see us reaching chapter 1400 or 1500 at this point, so much to unpack. Almost feels like Fishman Island to Wano was just the second act of 3. It really does. That's the crazy thing, because the final saga, it's starting to feel like, because you can really look at Fishman Island to Wano, and it's all one continuous train, in that Fishman Island sets up the Big Mom conflict, Punk Hazard sets up the Kaido conflict, and everything from those arcs onwards, it's just heading towards this final showdown with Kaido and Big Mom, which obviously went poorly, but that's okay. The final saga, even though it's called a single saga, it feels as though it's going to now cover everything that the story was actually really, really going to be about, which was this whole the ancient kingdom, even before the ancient kingdom, the Void Century, Will of D, Celestial Dragons, Dawn of the World, all the really, really juicy and important shit. And it feels like it's going to take a while. At the same time, I don't know if it'll be till 1400 or 1500. I think that it can actually, now the way things are going, I think things can actually connect together a lot sooner. I think Elbaf could be a 75 chapter arc. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. Hey Morj, check 722. Viola's artwork possibly foreshadowed Emu specifically, with Chopper sealing the sun, which further parallels Emu's instruction in 907. Chopper sealing the sun? Okay, I'll check it out, but I got my doubts about that. I don't know if that's Chopper's role, you know? I think he'd be probably the last person I call upon to do some sort of shit like that. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 400 real quick, because we're almost there. Jade, in the meantime, JWP, thanks again, man. Where does the mural gonna rank in best panels in One Piece? The implications are insane. I could talk about this one chapter for weeks. So one thing to remember here is with lore reveals, I think the mural could go down as one of the coolest chapters. Like, I think in this moment, that is possibly the most insane panel in One Piece. However, what I've noticed is that over time, lore reveal moments tend to slowly go down in significance, simply because, or how iconic they are, simply because we just get it. Over time, we get new information, which makes those moments of getting the preliminary information slowly carry less impact. So a similar example is, I remember when we hit Zoe, and we started learning about, like, Zoe was when we got a recent big batch of reveals, right? Big batch of reveals, which was like explaining how the road poneglyphs work, the secret to getting to Laugh Tale. We got context on like the journey there and everything like that. Like Zoe's little Whale Force section unveiled a lot, and I remember at that point in time, it was mind-blowing, and everybody was really gushing over it. In retrospect, I think people look back less and less frequently at that road poneglyph discussion and a lot of the things that we learned there. Like, it was a few chapters, like 2 to 3 chapters straight of like unveiling information, but now all that information is kind of it's commonplace for us now, right? Like, we don't view it as that special because now we've just known it for so long. I think the mural wouldn't necessarily fall into that category, but it's kind of like in Ohara, right? Like in the Enies Lobby flashback, like Clover revealing the existence of the Ancient Kingdom. That was probably for its time, like an absolutely huge reveal in the community. I wasn't quite weekly by that point in time, but I'm sure it was an absolutely huge reveal when it first came out. But now it's just one, like, now I don't think people would call that one of the most, like, I don't think it would crack like a top 20 of most iconic panels or whatever in One Piece. So the lore, the lore thing, I think we'll have to wait and see. The difference with the lore, the mural thing, the difference with the mural thing is that it is a singular panel that arguably showcases, like, just how dense One Piece's lore is in a way that no other panel has done so far. So for that reason, I think the panel we could be seeing it pretty frequently when people are telling people like, hey, this is why you should get into One Piece, or hey, this is why One Piece has the craziest world building and stuff. So I think for those reasons, we could see it more frequently. I don't count the Roger Laughed panel, even though it's a very iconic panel, as like a lore panel because there's not actually lore being revealed there. What's cool and iconic is actually just the reaction of the Pirate King to finding out the truth, because it speaks so much about him and so much about the nature of this story that we're reading. Anyway, reading this Chopper thing. Oh, I see. Oh, shit. Oh, the shit that Jola draws. Okay, hold on. This is actually interesting. I don't want to share it here. I don't see Chopper sealing the sun. I think this is too much to read into here at this moment in time, but this is interesting. Jola draws a bunch of artwork that could be argued to be foreshadowing some shit. Who knows? Continuing on. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 400 real quick, because we got 1,200 people in here. JWP, thanks for the 5. Oh, no, we covered this. I'm saying thanks for the 5. Morj, thought on the theory that Luffy's dream in this is the story we've been reading. Personally, if that happens, I'm quitting manga for life. I would quit manga for life as well if this whole thing is just a dream. But I think Oda implied that the story wouldn't just all be a dream or anything like that. KK, thanks for the 5. First world, God of Earth was enraged, creating the red line. Second world, God of Sea was enraged, creating the calm belt. Third world, they will meet again, equals all blue. I like where you're going with that. I very much like where you're going with that. I think it ties a lot to what I'm talking about in this Tuesday's video. It ties a lot to what I'm talking about in this Tuesday's video. So just wait and see. Just wait and see. Just wait and see. I'm very excited for Tuesday's video. I put a shit ton of time into Tuesday's video. It just connects so much. And, like, it connects a lot of things that I previously believed, but I felt that they were inconsistent with each other. I was like, well, I believe that the red line was artificially created, but how could it have been artificially created if, like, Lunarians lived there before Celestial Dragons? So at what point could it have occurred? The reveal that it happened in cycles and that there was a first world where certain things occurred and then second world where other things occurred, it resolves so much. It resolves so much. This just puts together so many things. Continuing on. Here we at. Oh, L, I missed this. You think Franky is covering something under the tree? There was something important on the tree before. Poneglyph at Zoe. I don't know about the video, so my bad. No, don't worry. Don't worry about the video. Let's see. Does it look like Franky's covering something? I think Franky might be covering something, like maybe the weapon Pluton, as was mentioned earlier. At the end of the day, Franky's got to stand somewhere in this. It's just so fucking cool that Franky's the one that, like, who would have guessed that if you were told about this mural in advance, like, there's a image coming up that reveals the full lore of One Piece, and you had to, gun to your head, guess which Straw Hat is standing in front of it to find out about this shit? No one's fucking putting Franky. No one in their right mind is fucking putting Franky. You gotta be insane to put Franky. But Oda still loves Franky. I'm happy about that. Good to see it. Jordan678, thanks for the 5. Who else do you think saw the mural? Shanks, definitely. What about Roger? Will Luffy ever see it? Feels kind of weird for him to try and fulfill a prophecy. I don't know if Luffy would ever give a shit. I don't think it's important for Luffy to see it. At the end of the day, at some point, Luffy is going to learn the true history because we're going to Laughdale. Robin's going to read the poneglyphs. That stuff's going to happen. So Luffy will likely be there. And Luffy does at some point, and generally he doesn't really care about history and stuff, but there are some points historically in the story where Luffy does sit down and actually listen to what happened. So the most memorable example of note that I can think of off the top of my head is at the start of Wano in Act 1, where Kinemon basically explained the full story of Odin. And it's implied that we pan away, but we pan back, and it's implied that Kinemon explained the full story of Odin in detail and everything that happened in Wano. And Luffy listened, and Luffy was enraged the whole time. So that was a notable moment. So it depends. I imagine with true history, Luffy might listen as well, if it's framed around a character, like Luffy, this was your predecessor, Joy Boy, or something maybe. I don't know. Also, let's get the streamlines up to 400 because we are almost here. Plank Vanilla, thanks for the 12. Morj, which deity do you think Blackbeard's fruit is based on? The first word supposedly ended in death and darkness. Could there have been a ruler in the first age who had Blackbeard's fruit? I think that Blackbeard's fruit is tied to the idea of the way the first world ended. I think it's tied to the idea of the way the first world ended. So I think there might be a similar ability there. I don't want to get into too much detail. And I think the second world basically ended with Emu taking over. So I think there's two separate abilities at play. And I think we will see Blackbeard gaining that same ability potentially from the first world again in the modern day story. I actually don't touch on Blackbeard much at all in the upcoming Tuesday video because that's its own whole other piece. Justin Holland, good to see you, man. Thanks for the 5. This chapter just shown us what could be the foundation of the 8 to 10D chess game that is One Piece and its guidelines. P.S. Luffy needs a bigger ship. I agree Luffy needs a bigger ship, which is why I believe that Franky will be upgrading the Sunny in this storyline, as I dropped a video on some time back. I definitely think we're getting a bigger ship. He's going to keep... he's going to keep for sure... How do I say this? We're going to keep the Sunny. I think that Sunny is just going to be upgraded. It's just going to be upgraded. Tamur Iqbal, thanks for the... thanks for the 14. Seemed like Emu achieves his final form through the Mother Flame /Sun somehow. Do you think Blackbeard will steal the Mother Flame from Emu and become the final villain for the next war? I'm kind of curious. Let me throw it to you guys, because I'm not trying to get too much into what is going to happen, like final villain wise, because those two, that is something that is still flexible. We can get into what a lot of what the mural represents, but we still need to fully understand, does Oda want to go the route of the final battle being Luffy overthrowing the current ruler, or the final battle being Luffy stopping an even greater evil that rises up in the wake of the evil ruler? Because the idea is cycles, right? So like one cycle represents one type of evil, the other cycle represents another type of evil. Which type of evil does Oda want to have as being the final thing that Luffy takes down, right? Let me toss to you guys. Final villain, Emu, Blackbeard. It can really go both ways, simply because Emu is currently the big boss, but Blackbeard we know is a growing boss, and his whole thing is stealing devil fruits, and powerful devil fruits are becoming more and more significant in the story. King G, thanks to the 2. 5th chapter in a row. Next, Oda is in his prime. If there's another chapter after this in a row, I don't even know. I would tell him to take a break. I'd be like, take the week off, man. Like, you're doing too much. Oh my god, and we're pretty much split 50-50 between Emu and Blackbeard. You love to see it. Like, think about how amazing that is, how Oda has set up the story, that for so long, like, we are this deep into the story, and there's 2 villains. This deep into the story, we know so much. Everything is planned and foreshadowed and all built up and built towards. We are still having difficulty understanding the lore, and we're still having difficulty understanding what will play out next at the conclusion of the story. One Piece is still somehow just as unpredictable as ever, even in its final storyline. Like, maybe even more unpredictable than ever, even in this final storyline. This is just, like, let me say this, there is no writer, no mangaka, at least for certain, that has Oda's vision. Most visionary mangaka of all time, not even close. Not even close. Right? Most visionary mangaka of all time. There's a great argument for Emu or Blackbeard, and either of them would be a fitting final villain. I don't think anybody would really be like, if Blackbeard's the final villain, I don't think anyone's like throwing up their hands being like, oh, this is such bullshit. If Emu's the final villain, I don't think anyone's like, oh, we didn't see that. Like, that's totally unexpected. Like, why, like, this is a Kaguya incident or whatever. Like, they've been set up for some time. And they both have great arguments, and Oda's keeping us guessing all the way down to the end. Patrick Malone, thanks for the 5. In Norse mythology, there are 2 big serpents, Jormungandr and Nidhogg. Nidhogg equals Grand Line equals First Sea King. I have no idea. I can't speak on that, unfortunately. I don't know what Nidhogg is. Maybe. That's a cool idea, though. Or Saliath, good to see you, man. Thanks for the 10. Shamrock versus Scopper incoming with the child napping. Maybe Scopper hesitates to attack someone that looks like Shanks since he raised the guy, but Luffy doesn't because Shamrock is ruining Shanks' rep. If Scopper attacks Shamrock, I just can't imagine it going well for Scopper. If it does, then that severely hurts Shamrock's stocks. Just because at this point, like, Scopper is below Rayleigh, we can imagine, right? At this point in the story, I don't think Rayleigh should be able to do jack shit to someone like Shamrock. Like, even pre-time skip, like 2 years ago, Rayleigh he made it clear that he's not going to be able to beat someone like Kizaru, right? He can kind of stall him. He can stall him, but he can't beat someone like Kizaru, right? Scopper Gaban should be even weaker than Rayleigh. And then if Scopper Gaban's able to do some stuff to Shamrock at this point, no offense to Kizaru, because Kizaru's obviously a strong character, but it's just like Shamrock basically showed up and is like another Kizaru level character, which isn't that crazy exciting at this point in the story, you know? Bunfagum, thanks for the 10. The gods aren't literal, but natural phenomena. Forest god. I agree with you, Bunfagum. I'm not even going to finish the rest. I'll finish the rest of what you're saying, but I do agree with you. You are onto it right there. Forest god equals creation of devil fruits. Sea god equals world flooding. Earth god equals shattering of earth. Connects to Skypiea where the gods weren't real. Yes, Bunfagum, what you just said is literally in the video. I think people are getting too caught up in the mentions of gods. We already know certain things that disprove the idea, like, there was no sea god that got enraged and flooded the world. We know what actually happened, right? This is a religious retelling. It's a parable of events, right? So that's what we're trying to decipher here, right? However, the fruits of such gods can exist because people believed in them, which makes it very interesting because those gods can still play a part in the story today, the same way that Luffy is the sun god. We can still have other gods, basically. We can have a fruit, like someone who has the great serpent fruit. We can have someone who has the earth god fruit. Those things can exist. So we can still see that. That's the cool part. We can still see it take place in the modern day world, but there is nothing in this that actually is pushing the idea that this is supposed to be taken as literal God. So that's something very, very important to understand. If people doubt that, then just watch for next Tuesday's video because it breaks down why that is very, very much in depth. Juin02, thanks to the 5. I think the peace that Harold pushed was a seed planted by the world government, an agenda to pacify and weaken the giants for a future takeover. I could see that, but the thing is that the thing with that is just that it would go so hard against so many of the themes of the story because it's just like, how do I say this? It's just like the idea that like Harold trying to turn this warlike and violent race into a race that actually, you know, values education and scholarly learning and stuff is somehow bad. And like this was something evil that he was secretly doing. I mean, like, Saul himself, literally in his introduction, explains that I don't fuck with the Ions of Elbaf. They're barbarians. Like, they're shitty. They're a fucking shitty culture. They're barbarians, right? He does not fuck with them. At the same time, it's like, look at Robin and Saul right now. It seems to be implied that what's happening here is good, that they're teaching kids in this school. The values of education, scholarly learning are, like, significant here. Even just at the very beginning of the arc, like chapter 1076, you have Colin who's saying like, oh boy, is there going to be a war? Are we going to fight? Like Colin's got these fantasies of like being this warrior and fighting and stuff. And then you have Shanks who's basically explaining like, you're too hot-headed, kid. Like, no, we're not going to try and fight here. We're going to try and avoid war. We want to keep the peace, right? Keeping the peace seems to be the more important. Like, I don't think Colin is correct in the values that he wants necessarily, because that's kind of shut down in the very first chapter. It even goes back to like Luffy's own things that he had to learn in the first chapter, right? It's possible that what we're heading towards is maybe something more nuanced, like some middle ground or something like that, but it would just be really weird if it's like, yeah, like a little hot-headed kid like Colin, he's got the right idea, which is like, yeah, we should all be fighting and doing shit instead of the kids that actually like learning and peace and being in school and like education and like Saul's values, Robin's values, Shanks' values. It's like, no, those values are all incorrect. Yeah, Harold fixed the whole country, but fixing the country in this way is actually shitty because it plays to the Celestial Dragon stuff. I think that'd be a very contradictory idea. So it depends how Oda does it. Toby Obito, thanks to the 5. Who do you think the guy walking up to the castle is? He was drinking with Crocus in 631. Yeah, I'm on the page that he's Scopper Gaban at this point. I'm on the page that he's Scopper Gaban or some member of the Roger Pirates that we have yet to meet. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 500 real quick. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 10. Not sure if you're going to do 1139 prediction streams, so here's mine. I'm not, because there's no break next week, so we'll do one for 1140 after this chapter comes out. Next chapter. Mysterious Man is revealed to be Scopper Gaban, and he's introduced to us as the navigator of the Roger Pirates. That would be cool. I think that would be one thing that would make Scopper's role interesting if he's got a specific thing, like either scholar of the Roger Pirates, like Robin, or navigator. That would be cool. And would tie into Nami's story here as well. L, thanks to the 5. His name is Shamrock. Isn't that the 3-leaf clover? And Cerberus has 3 heads. He's linked with 3 too much. Could there be a third kid of Garling? And one way you could interpret it as it's like father and then 2 sons, right? Father and then 2 sons, rather than yeah, you could interpret it as father and 2 sons, right? So that's the first way you could interpret it. The tricky thing, so like that's 3 right there. At the same time, the idea that there's 3 brothers is also interesting. The thing is that Shamrock, it looks like, did we get a good look at his sword? Because it seems like he fits the silhouette at the center of the Holy Knights, both from Dragon's speech and from Vegapunk's speech. Did we get a good look at his sword? Let me see again. Of course we got a good look at his sword this chapter. Is his sword the same sword as that other dude in Vegapunk's speech? Let me see. Where's his sword at? Where's this dude's sword at? Yeah, it's the same type of sword. So I imagine Shamrock is who we got. I think this is it. Patricio Zambrano, welcome to the Yonko. Thanks for joining, man. I hope you enjoyed it. Diego Giancarlo Ramirez Sesti, fantastic name, by the way. That's a cool name. Thanks for your first super ever. Seriously, the guy off the coast of Elbaf is Roger Fake Death. Let's not. If after one of the greatest One Piece chapters of all time, Oda drops one of the worst One Piece chapters of all time, that'd be hilarious. Party McFly, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 22 months. Holy shit. Haven't been around much because of football season, but what a chapter. Is this the craziest chapter since 1043/1044? Yes, I would say so. I think this is the craziest since the Luffy Gear 5 stuff. This is probably the craziest. There's other stuff that goes in there, like Emu using Uranus the first time, Vegapunk, maybe Vegapunk. No, there's nothing even Vegapunk said in his speech that's as crazy as this. This is like Vegapunk's speech on... You know what's fucking hilarious? Time out. Okay, you know how a lot of us felt like Vegapunk's speech was slow? And that Oda spent... Okay, think about this. Oda spent, with Vegapunk's speech, he spent 5 to 6 straight chapters, or maybe 5 to 7 chapters straight of just exposition after exposition that overall explained to us like 3 new things, right? 5 to 7 chapters spent doing that. In this single panel, Oda has revealed 50 times more lore than Vegapunk did across those 7 chapters. Isn't that fucking hilarious to think about? There is more lore in this single panel than all of Vegapunk's speech combined. So I'm just like, Oda, what were you doing, man? What were you doing? What was going on there? Because I think during Vegapunk's speech, I think I was repeatedly saying that like Oda has to be very careful and like he's taking his time with this quite a bit and letting it draw out because he has to be very careful and selective with how he reveals the information, etc. So like it's going to be better on reread, which I still think is true. I just think it's funny in retrospect because now it's just like, damn, so Oda could actually just like drop major lore bombs in much more concise fashions. Anyway. Dragonfire, thanks for the 2. Ripley's words remind me of Luffy's childish dream. Yeah, it's an interesting. It seems remarkably similar. Hell, maybe Joy Boy fucking made the mural. Because Joy Boy's childish too, in a sense. Zay G, thanks for the 5. I have a feeling that the One Piece itself is located in the mural. I'm just not sure what it would be. You're saying like there's something in the mural that could be the One Piece. I would suggest you wait for Tuesday's video. Because you are on to... I think I'm onto this. Just wait for Tuesday's video. It will break it down. Dragonfire, thanks to the 5. Infernal Serpent used by the Land God is the red line. Yes, I agree. The first world ended with the red line forming. Agree. The second world ended with the world flooding. Yes, agree. Watch out for Tuesday's video. Goes into all of it in great detail. Great detail. Anime Awakening, thanks for 5 gifted. Holy shit, everybody in chat say thanks to Anime Awakening. Seriously, a lot of people are getting memberships today, so seriously, I'm just glad everybody's enjoyed the chapter. This is great shit. This is like the most hyped chapter probably, since 1043, 1044. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 500 because we're almost there. Sid P, thanks for the 5. Besides the raid, Morj has a good record. I do think I have a pretty decent record. I think now with Elbaf, I'm on a bit of a roll, honestly, with theories. Shanks twins, Emu Red Line, but also Big Mom and Kaido going down in Wano. Yeah, I think if you look through Elbaf, like a lot, I've had several things that are confirmed specifically in Elbaf so far, and in recent, also through the end of Egghead. Behanort, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 16 months. This chapter introduces like 4 new gods aside from Nika: Earth, Hell Serpent, Forest, and Sea. One of them has to be Emu. The question is which one? Probably the biggest chapter since 1044, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I agree. I agree, yeah. As for the new gods that are introduced, yes, I do think that they are fruits related to each of them. However, at the same time, There's also, you could argue that, yeah. Um, I I think that emu, if he has one, would be the serpent one or the sea one, but I don't want to delve into the speculations around that too much yet. I did drop a video sometime back explaining that the serpent emu having the serpent. This was like a year ago. I dropped a video explaining that emu having the serpent fruit does seem very, very likely. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. You can check that video out on my channel. It's a pretty elaborate video breaking down emu having the serpent, and now this video, or this chapter, basically just bolsters that like tenfold. Carson Cock, thanks for the 5. Slept on part of the chapter is Straw Hat moments / dialogue. Franky, good dialogue ties to mob history. Yeah, this chapter was literally the first, and I talk about this in my chapter review. This was the first chapter that Franky felt like a human, like a real person with like origins and like a past and things that he used to care about, besides just saying super and being joking about how he's a cyborg. This was the first, like, it talked about his fucking experiences as like in any Slobby Water 7, like his experiences as a shipwright. Like, that's so fucking important. I feel like it's so easy, not easy. I'm not trying to say it's easy, but I just feel like, how should I say this? I feel like there's so much stuff that Oda chooses to do with side characters when a lot of us really just want the Straw Hats to get this type of dialogue more frequently. Luffy with Shanks, I agree. Even Robin or Nami having a Bellemere recall moment, and you're saying Robin gets a good moment. I agree as well. I think next chapter is going to be a Robin-centric one, potentially, with Robin getting to talk a lot about what she's seeing there. Hope you're well. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I am doing good. J.K. Kane, thanks for being Yonko tier member for 28 months, man. Holy shit. Thank you for the long time support, man. Blazing Blue, thank you for the 10. More Wano connections. Mural having fire under it is similar to Wano with magma under it. Good point. Forest God making devil fruits. Yep, like Kaido and Smile. Oh, interesting. Kaido and Rochi both being serpents. Yes, Kaido on fire. Yeah, good shit. Again, check out my video on Emu and having the serpent fruit and how that ties into a little bit of Kaido and Orochi having the serpent fruit. JK Kane, thanks for the 5. Lol meant to send this. Oda heard about the post-Wano slander and turned into LeBron down 3-1 to the Warriors in these last 2 arcs. Yeah, Oda has been he's been living up to his name Goda the last 2 arcs. I'd say the climax to Egghead is the only section that didn't look the sharpest. But everything outside of that, like the rest of Egghead, and then everything in Elbaf so far has been, it's genuinely peak One Piece. I am convinced at this point the final saga will be the best writing that One Piece has ever had. I'm genuinely convinced of that. Gold Burrito, thanks to the 2. Morj, what about all 4 Yonko team up to fight Emu? I don't really think that's happening. I don't personally think that's happening. Duck20, thanks for the 5. I think Blackbeard is final villain and will literally hold the world hostage from the sun. Whoops. I have this comment pinned. I don't need it anymore. Will literally hold the world hostage from the sun using his Logia. He represents the void who will consume all. I think there's a solid argument thematically for why Blackbeard could do that, and just in general in terms of his powers and what he represents. Chai Retard, thanks for the 10. How do you think the Mother Flame relates to Luffy? Do you think it's a vestige of Luffy's DD? The sake way we think? Devil Fruit? The same way we think Emu is a vestige of Blackbeard's Devil Fruit? Was the Forbidden Star Mother Flame or Luffy? Okay, so I think a lot of people are getting a little bit caught up in one thing, which is that the forbidden let me see one thing here. Yeah, the forbidden. Okay, so the flame, the initial flame, I think a lot of people are jumping to that being the Mother Flame. The Mother Flame is a big part of it. There is something more, because if it's just the Mother Flame, Vegapunk fucking made the Mother Flame. You know, like he made a Mother Flame. Mother Flames are now. I think just wait for Tuesday's video. The short answer I'll give is that I think that I think a lot of people are jumping to the sun was the mother flame. The sun was not just the mother flame. There's more than that. It is tied to how we have mother flames and how you're able to produce mother flames, but it's more than just that. So I'll just wait for Tuesday's video, and it'll be a much more in-depth explanation of that. Oh, thanks for the 2. Do you practice lucid dreaming? No, but I did when I heard about it. This was when I was younger. I did think it was a really, really cool idea. And so then I was like, well, what if I could master lucid dreaming? That'd be really, really cool. But then I got worried that like, no, but then what if I fuck up like what if I become too aware of when I'm dreaming? Then what if I actually wake myself up each time, and then that would fuck with my sleep cycle? So I genuinely got worried that like, because like when you hear about it, you're like, oh, you can control your dreams. That's like a really cool thing. Like, what if you like? I would like to try to do that. But then I thought about it for a little bit. This was when I was very young. I was like, no, because then what if that just fucks up like how I'm able to sleep regularly? And then what if I can never sleep regularly again? And that worried me too much. So just forgot about it. Wellaton Hadecker, thanks for the 10. If the final war came before the One Piece Blackbeard is final boss, the main rival to find the treasure. So I think that. So what Whitebeard told us is that find the One Piece and then the final war will begin. I'm now leaning more towards the whole story potentially converging, like the final war converging around getting the One Piece. But the One Piece itself, what it is a little complicated, as again, I'll explain in Tuesday's video. Kind Best says the Mother Flame is a piece of the Eternal Sun. It's closer there. It's getting closer there. Like, Vegapunk did not recreate the same thing that was the original sun. Let's just say there. But I think we got a really, really interesting idea to work with here. I'll explain later. Remix King, thanks for your Yonko... Tuesday's video. Remix King, good to see you again, man. Thanks for your Yonko to remember for 23 months. I'm almost certain Luffy wouldn't dream of his only brother dying in his arms. Also, Morj, what are your thoughts on the All-Star selection? I'm happy for Tyler Herro. Don't want to get too into NBA here. I'm going to be honest, I didn't even look into the All-Star reserves and everything like that. I haven't been watching as much basketball as I normally would this year. There's just something about... I think this year, like the short version is basically like when the season began, or no, after a little bit into the season, like, I think with LeBron, Curry, their teams being really bad, even KD's team being bad, Kawhi being out, so like a lot of the older stars not being good for a while, and then Luka being out, and then Jokic and the Nuggets, who I really like, they were bad for a good stint. And then the teams that were good were teams I fucking disliked, like the fucking Celtics, the Thunder, the Grizzlies, the Cavs. I think that turned me away from basketball a little bit, but I'll get back into it once later in the year. And yeah, I agree that Luffy didn't dream up this whole thing. Krishna Vamsi, thanks a lot. This also explains the deterrence that the Marines have towards Shanks. He's absolutely strong, but his status as Celestial definitely plays a major role in Navy avoiding him or listening. No, because we already saw from Doflamingo, like that was kind of the whole point of Doflamingo's story, which is that if you're a pirate, they're just going to treat you as a pirate. Like, nobody treats Doflamingo as a Celestial Dragon. Once you're out of that life, you're out of that life. Like, if you're choosing to live as a pirate, you just have that status. They're not giving Shanks Celestial Dragon status. South Down, thanks for the 5. Land God is Emu, Sea God is Blackbeard, can take away fruit powers. Sun God is Luffy, Forest God could be Dragon, or someone held captive by Emu. Can't get into all of that here. I do think Emu being tied to the serpent is very, very likely, though. I do think that one is very, very likely. We're going to leave the rest alone for the moment. Just too much to get into right here. The one tidbit I'll give is that I think that it's possible that if there is a forest god fruit, then I think dragon having it would make a lot of sense. Because I think one of the biggest little twists that Oda can drop is introducing a character who then reveals that they have wind powers. That they've got a wind Loki. Because then we'd be all like, wait, what the fuck? Wait, then what the fuck does dragon have? I think that'd be a really cool little reveal. Manny, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 3 months. I really hope Logia gets his lick back on Shamrock and Gunko for beating him while tied up, and I hope Gaban's intro is just as good as Rayleigh. I hope Gaban gets a really sick intro as well, assuming it's Gaban. It might not be fucking Gaban. But yeah, I think Loki versus Shamrock being a setup fight, I think that could be a really, really interesting possibility. I did not predict Loki defeating Shamrock ever. I thought it'd either be Luffy or Shanks. Dimian Wright, thanks for being a Yonko to your member for 17 months. I don't want to be that guy, but it makes no sense that the Holy Knights can teleport, but let Fisher Tiger raid the Holy Land without showing up. It's possible Fisher Tiger was kind of sneak. So, like, Fisher Tiger must have snuck in, right? Like, so he climbed the red line's really big. So climbing up and sneaking in, that's a thing that can be done. Like, no one stopped Kuma before he climbed all the way up. No one stopped Laffy before climbing all the way up. Like, you can climb up the red line if you're dedicated enough, right? No one fucking stopped Emmet before he climbed all the way up, and Emmet's a giant robot. So once he got up there, I imagine Fisher Tiger worked pretty sneakily and went around freeing the slaves. And so then by the time Fisher Tigers freed the slaves or whatever and everyone's running out, there's a lot of panic and everything going on. So nobody knows who's at the source, etc. It's maybe learned later on that Fisher Tiger or Fishman did it. Yeah. I just imagine it was a very chaotic incident. Sid P, thanks for the 5. Theory time. Nami and Nojiko came out of nowhere because of the Toki Devil Fruit and the ancient tech that they... Whoa. They copy do have time travel from the Void Century. Oh, you think Nami and Nojiko got sent from the past here? I don't know about that, but that is interesting. Sid P, thanks for the 5, because Belmir found them in a destroyed kingdom, but they didn't remember being from there. But there's so little. That'd be fucking insane if Nami's actually important in that way. I do think the possibility that, like, the fact that Toki exists changes so much, because, like, so much could be sent to the future, you know? But the thing is that Toki doesn't send people through space. She just sends people through time. So I don't think Belmir was in the fucking New World or anything like that. So I imagine, like, Nami and Nojiko, like, would Toki have been in East Blue? I don't know about that. Cup, thanks for the 2. Good to see you. Thoughts on the Arc Maxim being in the mural? So I personally feel that the Arc Maxim, because it is very, very, like, clearly visually like the Arc Maxim. I think a lot of what's in the mural is symbolic and supposed to alert readers to certain things, right? So Oda's using, I feel like, the visual of the Arc Maxim when it's supposed to really represent Pluton, right? So he's doing, like, these are scribbles, right? So for us, we're supposed to be able to tell, like, oh, it looks kind of like the Maxim and it's shooting out energy to destroy stuff. I think it's supposed to represent Uranus. Sorry, Uranus. I don't know if I said Pluton just now. I think it's supposed to represent Uranus. Simply because... in Skypiea itself, Maxim is like Skypiea is a microcosm. It's a little condensed version of what the whole story of One Piece is supposed to be, right? It's like a micro version of the story of One Piece. The arc Maxim essentially plays the role of Uranus in the context of the Skypiea arc, but it's the Uranus that we know of. It is a weapon that floats in the sky that shoots down energy and everything like that, right? So Maxim is basically supposed to be a little like in the Skypiea arc. Maxim, wielded by God Enel, is supposed to be a little bit of foreshadowing to the idea of the way ancient weapon Uranus, wielded by the god Imu, to do similar things, such as destroy islands, right? So we, the reader, don't currently know what Uranus looks like. Oda's doing, like, he's doing a little bit of a self-referential thing, and, like, in this kid's scribbles, we're getting a drawing of, like, some weapon in the sky that's dealing out destruction from above. Oda's making it look a little bit reminiscent to what the reader would recognize as Maxim, because it's supposed to symbolize what Maxim symbolizes in the story as a whole, which is Uranus. Continuing on. 1 second. All right. Atlic, thanks for the 2. Uranus is the city in the mural powered by the Mother Flame. No. I don't think that's the case, but thanks for your first super ever. Again, just wait for next Tuesday's video. The city in the mural is, it's one that we know very, very well. I'll just say that. And it connects exactly what we've been told about this city. Anime Problem, thanks to the 5. An old saying encapsulates why I think Harold made some mistakes. If you seek for peace, prepare for war. That's true, and maybe that's going to be the theme of One Piece, but at the same time, like that's going to be the theme in Elbaf, but at the same time, like, that's an outside real world saying, right? So we need to know if Oda subscribes to that idea as well. Because at the same time, you got to remember, like, he's told us multiple times through other nations, such as the tale of the story of Dressrosa and the themes communicated there, that ultimately, like here, let me show you. No, I don't want to pull up panels here, but just go read Riku's whole interaction with Pika. Just go read Riku's whole interaction with Pika. I think that's the Best thing I can say. Read Riku's interaction with Pika, and you'll understand why I have heavy doubts that what Harold did was supposed to be completely incorrect. Maybe it's more complicated, so maybe there is more to that. Maybe Harold made them too soft, but I don't think that a lot of Harold's policies necessarily came from an evil place. It's hard to say. Captain T, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morj, do you think Kaido was aware of this story? One of his attacks in Wano is called Conqueror of Three Worlds. So somebody did point that out to me on Twitter, and I thought that was a phenomenal insight. That's a phenomenal insight. At the same time, we don't know how much Oda is just slipping in little bits of references into past lines of characters in One Piece, and those are Oda references that he's dropping for us, not necessarily the characters themselves knowing this or that. However, with how much Kaido did know about the past, I think it's entirely possible. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 10. There's a soft trend of navigators often being the second or third most prominent members of their crews after captains and right-hand men, if there is one. Nami, Beppo, Lafitte, Rodo, and Bellamy, Rodo and Bellamy's navigator. That is a really, really good point. I didn't think about that. That is a phenomenal point. There is a soft trend of that. Shit, Zoro's supposed to be a better navigator. I'm just kidding. Zoro and Nami, as you know from my recent video, if you watch that, they represent two halves of what's most important for Luffy. Ira, thanks for the 5. Blackbeard final villain, in my opinion. He will steal Imu's power and buff his crew like Imu does the Gorosei. Blackbeard buffing his crew. That wasn't actually... I have a theory for how Blackbeard will have stronger subordinates at the end of the story, but buffing his crew is actually not a route that I thought of initially. That's a great point. Tom, thanks to the 5. Could Blackbeard represent the Forest God? He creates devils by giving fruit powers to his crewmates. Forest God is against Land God, but still seems evil. So, how do I say this? Oh, that is actually a very, very good possibility, though. Blackbeard representing Forest God, because, having all these devil fruit powers, that's a really, really good possibility. That's a really, really good possibility. I'm just thinking who's going to get these certain fruits, assuming that those fruits ultimately manifest in the story itself. Yeah, Forest God being portrayed against Land God does seem to be a prominent thing in the mural. You could argue that Dragon gets the Forest God fruit or something like that, and that's why we're seeing symbolically in the mural Dragon versus Land God, Serpent, etc. L, thanks for the 5. One Piece theorists with a lot of W's are Morj, Evil, O'Hara, and Randy Troy. Not talking about Library of O'Hara. I don't know if I keep track. I remember Marco, the One Piece theorist, also had some good things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I keep track. But thanks, I appreciate it, man. I have actually gotten a lot of things correct since Elbaf began, including, this was from years ago, one of my earliest theories, which was Elbaf being Shanks. Actually, even in Egghead, I was getting some significant stuff correct that I feel like I never got credit on. One of the biggest ones that bummed me out, was that I did an entire theory towards the very beginning of Egghead, explaining that Kuma got his mind erased for the sake of his daughter Bonnie, because Bonnie was being held captive, which turned out to be exactly the story that was revealed in Kuma's backstory. But the theory I dropped was so far back, and it was at a time that videos weren't getting high views or whatever, that nobody mentioned it. I was right about the flooding and everything like that, and the true world of One Piece being under the sea. Elbaf being Shanks' arc, the twin brother or the evil brother thing. Although I will acknowledge that was that was gaining traction in general among a lot of people. Yeah, there was a lot of shit. Continuing on. And the God's Knights being the villains of Elbaf. There's a lot of shit. Dragonfire, thanks for the 5. Figarlands and Don Quixote parallels. Celestial Dragon, dads with 2 sons, each rejects and embraces dad's belief. Yeah. There is strong parallels there. Korra, same age as Figarland boys. I didn't know that. Was he / Dofi friends with Shamrock? I don't know. And it's kind of the reverse, too, with, Doflamingo going up back to Marijua because he wanted to rejoin the Celestial Dragons, versus Shanks going back up to Marijua once, but just to say most likely that he didn't want to be part of the Celestial Dragons. Old Faithful, thanks for bringing a Yonko to your member for 21 months. There was a mother flame around the moon. Could the moon connect to Uranus? Here. How do I say this? The energy that we're seeing in a lot of... Just wait for next Tuesday's video. I swear next Tuesday's video will answer a lot, including what this mysterious little orbs of energy that we're seeing around everywhere are. It will answer so much. It will answer a lot. I'm going to make a quick note for myself, too. Yeah. All right. Let me check one thing. Sorry, just checking one thing. All right. Yeah. I guess we're good. Okay. Al, thanks for 2 more gifted memberships. Holy shit, thank you so much, man. Also, let's get the... Thank you for coming through. And everybody say shouts in the chat for L for coming through and dropping so many memberships. Maybe one day you too can be gifted. Let's get the stream likes up to 500 real quick, because we are right there. Charitard, thanks for the 10. Could Mother Flame be related to Inherited Will? That the Will of D is a causal rule that always leads back to Nika's revival and the ending of a cycle, hitting at his dual interpretation. I don't think the Mother Flame... I think the Mother Flame... How to explain this? There were multiple Mother Flames. Mother Flames are a thing that could be created in the ancient eras. Let's say that. The source is what's really important here. And the source is the sun that has been lost since the Second World. So that's what I'll say here. I think the Inherited Will is related to bringing back that source, the sun. Ultra, thanks for the 2. Could Emu be a failed / first Nika, aka a moon god? That's an interesting possibility. I personally don't think so. I think Emu falls into one of the things symbolized on the image. Toby Obito, thanks for the 2. You think there's a special weapon to defeat Emu? I hope not, because I feel like, generally speaking, Luffy's victories have always come through his own capabilities and like surpassing the opponent or reaching the level of the opponent. I think that's generally much more powerful in the story of One Piece, just the power of people's wills, dreams, all of that stuff. And on top of that, just look at how Emu reacted to Joy Boy's hockey. I think Emu is a beatable opponent at the end of the day without a special weapon. You might need a special weapon to match Emu's special weapon, which is Uranus, but that's a whole discussion. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Sky people might be involved if Emu's plan is more dangerous than Ender's endgame. I agree. If it sweeps the entire planet, could the brewing conflict in Elbaf reach Morgan's and go viral? I think that I do think it's very possible that Vivi and them end up reuniting with the Strats soon. Like, we even started Elbaf with the newspaper and everything like that, and seeing Vivi's signal. So if Vivi and Morgan's end up at Elbaf, then Morgan's could just be there for what happens next, you know? Supersonic Squad, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 16 months, man. Holy shit. Definitely get your submission in for the Pirate King podcast. We got the questions going for that right now. For those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast, you can, for my top tier of patrons or YouTube members, you can get your questions in, and I answer it very, very in-depth. About One Piece, other anime, manga, real life, NBA video games, all that stuff, basically. So I answered every question very in-depth, hour and a half long. You can get your submissions in right now. Anyway, so the question you have is, the 2 crown figures in the mural could be the 2 sovereigns that the Sea Kings mentioned. The second could be Momo because of the elephant, or Vivi because of the camels, and the other reason I think she's one. That is a phenomenal point. That is something I actually don't have in the Tuesday video. Supersonic Squad, I'm going to jot down a note and credit you. 2 sovereigns, 1 riding elephant. That is a phenomenal point. I love that. That might make it into Tuesday's video. Thank you very much. Because the king on the elephant is a piece of the mural that I think I covered so many things in there. I don't think I actually covered that. I actually thought that might be, my offhand thought was that, okay, maybe that's the former king of the ancient kingdom. But whatever ability it is to command Zunisha has now been passed on to Momonosuke. But if it's supposed to depict modern times, maybe that makes sense. That you might be right. It's either Momonosuke or Vivi. Starbright, thanks for the 5. Do you think Gaban will be end of story Sanji's floor in terms of strength, similar to how Rayleigh is Zoro, since we know Luffy's crew will surpass Rogers? I do think so. And I think one thing that's important to consider is that I think that Rayleigh and Gaban, I believe, are much closer to Roger than standard, because Luffy's the only crew. How do I say this? Most crews, most general Yonko crews, right? Traditional Yonko crews, they follow the format of like captain and then a big gap and then 1, 2, 3 commanders, right? 3 top commanders, right? Shanks with Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo Yasop, Kaido obviously with 3 calamities, Big Mom with 3 sweet commanders, stuff like that. However, if you look at Roger's crew functions a little bit differently in that it's more similar to the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats do not have 3 commanders. Jinbei being the 3rd commander that's not a real thing. It's something like, it's made very clear that there are 2 wings of the Pirate King. Zoro and Sanji are the 2 side-by-side figures. They fight King and Queen, yada, yada, yada. It's just the way shit has been, right? You cannot read Egghead and come away from that thinking, or Wano and come away from that thinking that Oda is in any way trying to imply that Jinbei's breaking up the monster tree or something, right? And the simple biggest piece of evidence is that Roger's crew is also like Luffy's, in that it's not like Roger and then 3 commanders. Roger also had 2 wings, right? Rayleigh and Gaban, silver and copper, right? Gold, silver, copper. That tells me that the dynamic is different in that Roger's like Zoro and Sanji are closer to Luffy than, like, by a long shot than Kaido's calamities are to Kaido. I mean, we just saw what Zoro and Sanji did to King and Queen once they actually got their power-ups. And we saw how Luffy was still, struggling with Kaido at the end. Zoro and Sanji are just closer to Luffy by a long shot than other commanders are to their captains, right? And I think that's reflected in the fact that they follow, like, the Strats follow the Roger template of, like, it's captain and then 2 wings, right? Luffy, Rayleigh Scopper. Roger, Rayleigh Scopper, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, right? It's a different sort of dynamic. And interestingly, we haven't yet fully understood Blackbeard's crew's dynamic, because it's very possible that Blackbeard does not follow the 3 top commanders dynamic, but instead follows the Luffy-Roger dynamic, right? So the Pirate Kings, they're just built a little different. Why? Why is their dynamic different? Because the Pirate King needs a little extra special something, Like, Rayleigh is an advanced Conqueror's Haki user. For all we know, Scopper might be as well or something like that. In general, like, you just need, like, if you're the Pirate King, then having a right hand that's, like, more exceptional than just a Yonko's right hand makes a lot of sense. And same way, you wouldn't just have 3. It's more quality over quantity. You'd have 2 that are kind of your wings. You know what I make sense? You know what it seems like? Because it's never implied that Roger had, like, some 3rd guy, right? Roger had 2, same way Luffy had 2. But we know that Rayleigh is significantly above someone like Marco, someone like King, someone like, probably even like Ben Beckman and stuff like that. Like, Prime Rayleigh probably scales way higher than them. Continuing on. Duck20, thanks for the 2. Wasn't Fisher Tiger a slave? Yeah, but, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Fisher Tiger, I might be mixing up things a little bit here, but Fisher Tiger escaped and then traveled back up Marishua and freed everyone at Marishua. Am I right with that? That was my understanding. L, thanks for the 5. If Shanks actually has a griffin, does Shanks actually have a griffin in his sword? Then is that how he flies to different places so quickly? I prefer if he uses pure haki too. Yeah, I don't know if he'd actually have a griffin in his sword or whatever. Does he fly to places so quickly? He usually travels with his crew. Is the griffin flying his whole crew around? I don't know. Sabian Rob, thanks for the 5. Could the D-Tribe be the half moon people, Kazuki being the full moon? Wouldn't the Kazuki be the crescent moon? So the moon, D-Tribe, I do believe, is the half moon people. I do believe the D-Tribe is the half moon people. people of the moon dreaming could be the Kazuki. At the same time, I think it's also very, very possible that the full moon is literally people from the moon, because they seem to have come down during the Second World, and they're integral to the history that played out over the course of the Second World. Sabian Rob, thanks for the 5. Oh no, we covered that. Sorry. Mix that up. Ultra, thanks to 2. I think one of the sun gods in the 2 was evil. I don't know if we confidently can say we're seeing multiple sun gods in that image, or if the mural implies that there's multiple sun gods. Dawson! Oh, shit. Hold on. Dawson, thanks for your first super ever. Thank you, man. The forest god releasing demons was the creation of devil fruits. Agreed. This enraged the god of the sea, and that's why devil fruit users cannot swim. I don't know how much we are supposed to take the this god and that god thing literally, right? Because we do know certain other things, which is the devil fruits are born from people's dreams. The flooding that took place was not the god of the sea. It was the mankind doing the flooding, right? So I think I think there's a wait for Tuesday's video, but there's a lot to suggest that the gods that are referenced in these points are not literal gods, right? The one thing that's literal is Nika appearing in each one of the worlds. But even that, there's a catch to it if you put everything together, basically, right? So I'm gonna hold off on just wait till Tuesday's video kind of explain that in greater detail. But thank you for your first super ever, Binks. Hey, your namesake might be pretty important soon, Binks Sake. Hey, thanks for the 20. What are the odds that Enel makes a return? Love the content, bro. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. We do see something remarkably similar to Maxim in this image. At the same time, though, that is meant to represent Uranus. It's just that Maxim in the story, like, it's Oda's little way of representing Uranus for the reader, because we don't yet know what Uranus looks like, because Maxim in the Skypiea arc is meant to foreshadow. It's a symbolic precursor to what Uranus is in the grand scheme of things. JWP, thanks for the 10. In the mural, assuming that Dark Devil monster is Emu, the way it's shown kind of seems like Emu is the one getting jumped, not Joy Boy. Thoughts? Also, can you move the first world translations so I can see? Oh, yeah. First world translation. Let me see how far up is my thing. Okay. First world translations, you should be able to see most of the bottom regardless. I don't know if that helps at all. Let me move it a little bit more here. Let me move this a little bit more, give it a bit more breathing room. Maybe I can shift this in. Yeah, that should hopefully help. Hopefully that helps y'all. So it's possible the Dark Devil monster is Emu. At the same time, it's possible that it's supposed to be some representation of something else, and Emu's represented by the serpent. It seems like Emu's you can actually see some boats coming in from Emu's side, or like the devil's side, let's just say, as well. So it's not just getting jumped, but at the end of the day, the big scary devil thing seems to be the big evil that everybody else has. You could say getting jumped. At the end of the day, it's like a big alliance, right? To take down a great evil. Prophet Glutton, thanks for the 10. Still can't think of what Oda plans for Big Mom. You think he'll have her confront Blackbeard underground Wano while looking for Pluton to set her up for one final humiliation as his most hated Yonko? Blackbeard running... Oh, somebody's mentioned this before, but Blackbeard seeing Kaido and unearthing Kaido or Big Mom in some way just by blowing shit up at the bottom of Wano would be fucking insane. I am not confident that Oda has a bunch of plans for Big Mom down the line. I'm not confident. Let me send a text real quick. Hold on. RREY, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 6 months. My last thought on the Big Mom thing is just that, like, I personally feel like if Oda is going to bring back either Kaido and Big Mom, I would rather he bring them both back. Bringing just Big Mom back is the lamest thing in the story, even though technically there's more set up for Big Mom to potentially come back than Kaido, including her final words. I'm just like, dude, if you're going to bring Big Mom back, which not a single soul on the planet is asking for, but if you're going to bring Big Mom back, bring Kaido back too. Just bring Kaido back too. Just do it. If you're going to bring Big Mom back, bring Kaido back too. That's more exciting than just bringing back Big Mom. Hold on. Just figuring out dinner. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Alright, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 6 months. Hi, Morj. What do you think Shanks was doing in Morj? Referring to what Shamrock said about him. I think that this is something that we'll get when we get a Shanks flashback. You know, assuming we get a Shanks flashback. And I think that Elbaf is a really good spot to get it, because this is just where we seem to be getting to his origins, and Shanks is being mentioned so much throughout this arc. Luffy's talking about Shanks, Loki's talking about Shanks, like he's clearly pivotal to the story of this arc. And just because this is going to be a big, important arc for Usopp as well, the red-haired pirates coming in and tying in the Yasop storyline for Usopp is perfect as well, in my opinion. Hold on, let me make another note. Yeah. So continuing on, I think that if Shanks went up to Morj, it may have been to try and understand his roots or try and talk to his family, because I imagine he would want to once he learned that he's a Celestial Dragon. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Holy shit, you kind of just helped me figure out how the Strahds could call for possible reinforcements, which ties in with Vivi, make a deal with Morgans. That's an interesting point. That's a really interesting point. Yeah, just shout out for the whole world to hear. That's a great point, man. Here, 1 second. Just catching up. Red X. Oh, hey, man, what's up? Thanks for the 20. Thanks for your first super ever. I remember we talked in the past on old forums, like not even One Piece for Reddit for, I forget, maybe it was the Ora Jackson. Elbaf has been subject to ideological subversion. Harold was a plant by the world government to make them weak. They haven't become peaceful, they've been made harmless. You cannot have peace without strength. Both Pika and Riku are correct. So I agree with that sort of interpretation, because it adds nuance to everything. You can't just be a weak, peaceful country. So it is very possible that Harold in some ways betrayed the values of Elbaf. At the same time, I think that, like, the real answer being more nuanced is important at the end of the day. Because it can't, like, if it's just something like, I think a more nuanced answer is something that we could work with, but I don't think it can be something just like, oh, well, Elbaf's old ways were actually correct, right? Because those ways do have to be rejected in some way at the end of the day. Ultra, thanks for the 2. Emu could be an alien trying to get the motherfucker to go, trying to get the motherfucker to go home. Trying to get the motherfucker to go home. The funny thing though is that it's not that hard. Like, Enel's already made it to the moon, so at this point in the story, it's like getting to the moon shouldn't be that difficult. You know what I mean? Like, if it can happen in a fucking cover story, Emu shouldn't. His whole story shouldn't be him trying to get to the moon. You know? Super Sonic Squad, thanks for the 10. I think the people of the moon could be just all the groups allied with Joy Boy that don't have Ds, since so many of them are connected to the moon. Kazuki, Minx, Lunarians, Skypians, etc. That is an interesting point. The people of the moon dreamed being like all of these characters that are connected to the moon in some different way. I like that idea quite a bit. That's a really good idea. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. Last one. What if the monster trio each fights one of the 3 monsters in the mural at the end? Luffy versus Devil, Zoro versus a dragon, Sanji versus the serpent. I don't think that will necessarily happen, just because while the monster trio is very important, I don't think that they're that... I think that there's other characters that matter at the end of the day in the story, in terms of like who's Dragon gonna fight, who's Shanks gonna fight, things like that. I think at the end of the day, the characters that Zoro and Sanji will fight are going to be the strongest subordinates of whoever Luffy's final villain is. I think that's what's going to happen. The reason I say that is because I've begun to realize over time that no matter what, in all contexts, Oda will always have Zoro and Sanji, like, they will never be the ones to defeat a rival boss figure, like an independent boss figure. Okay, so they'll never defeat like another captain or like leader of a group. The reason I say that is because like Wano is what really shaped that and cemented that, because like obviously we have the trend of that always being the case. Technically Zoro did with Axe and Morgan, so you get one, but aside from that, the rest of the story hasn't happened. The reason being, if you look throughout, especially like pre-time skip, that was the standard, right? Post-time skip, if you're looking at stuff like obviously Doflamingo subordinates, that's what Zoro's fighting. But then you get to Wano. And heading into Wano, a lot, because we were told before Wano started that Wano was held captive by Shogun of Wano and Kaido. Traditionally, Shoguns are very, very powerful, right? So a lot of people got very excited. And one of the overwhelming consensus ideas heading into Wano was that Luffy's going to fight Kaido. Zoro's going to be the one to defeat this Shogun of Wano, right? Zoro's going to be the one to defeat the Shogun of Wano because Shogun is a big deal, right? Shogun are generally badass in stories, right? Then we got to Wano and it was revealed that Shogun Orochi is a little bitch. He's a little bitch. And at the end of the day, even in the Wano arc, which is Zoro's most important arc in general, even in the Wano arc, ultimately Oda's going to have him still do the traditional fight that is the common fight, which is Zoro's going to fight King. He's going to fight Kaido's right hand. Even in Wano, Zoro's not going off and doing something in like defeating some independent leader or something like that. Oda could have made the Shogun really powerful, but he didn't, right? Oda even wrote a Zoro versus Orochi type storyline with Zoro really hating Orochi, but it didn't really matter because Orochi's this weak bitch at the end of the day. Zoro's final opponent was King. So that kind of told me that at the end of the day, even in something like Wano, where Zoro's supposed to have some extra significance, Oda's not going to have Zoro go fight a leader. He exists to fight for Luffy, and so he's always going to fight someone that's a subordinate to who Luffy's fighting. The big thing Zoro got to do was get some hits in against the boss as well, Kaido, but ultimately Zoro's not going to defeat Kaido, right? ZKK was never going to be a thing. Zoro's not going to be the one to defeat Kaido. Luffy's always going to be the one to defeat Kaido. Zoro's going to his final fight is always going to be a subordinate. And even in the grand scheme of things, I think it's very interesting because one thing Oda could have very easily done is make Mihawk a Yonko. Make Mihawk a Yonko because Mihawk is the fucking strongest, like he is the Yonko level figure in Cross Skill, right? It's not Buggy. Buggy's a figurehead, right? Oda could have just, like, Buggy's a joke. He's just a figurehead. Oda could have just said Mihawk is the new Yonko, and other character like other Shichibukai like Crocodile have like joined with him to make this new Yonko crew. But Oda chose not to, even in the context of Zoro's final matchup, or most important matchup, let's say, with Mihawk. Oda's even there making sure, it's just like a symbolic thing at this point. Even there, Oda's kind of making sure that like Zoro is not ultimately fighting a captain. He's never taking down a captain. It's just a symbolic thing. Zoro is Luffy's right hand. He is always going to be fighting and defeating subordinates as his main thing. And I think the same thing would apply to Sanji. So I don't think I see Zoro or Sanji being the ones to defeat, like, even though I think it would be cool, I don't think I see them being the ones to defeat, like, the forest god or, like, the earth god or whatever those are supposed to be in terms of fruit users in the modern day. And to be clear, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's symbolically what's supposed to be so important, right? Zoro is choosing not to be a leader. He exists to be Luffy's right hand, and that's why Oda is always going to have Zoro defeat characters who are not the leader themselves. It's just thematic, right? Black Lightning, thanks for the 5. Interesting. Kaido was the fake Joy Boy and had a move Conqueror of 3 Worlds. Yeah, that was something that was brought up earlier in this stream as well. It speaks to the possibility that Kaido even knew some more of the history than we thought, but it could also just mean that Oda is dropping a little reference for us. Hold on, let me just check real quick. Iced Empire, thanks for the 5. If the battle against Imo will be a huge alliance akin to the alliance against Kaido, should the mage on Marijua fail in order to be a good story? I'm not saying that the raid needs to fail for things, like raids need to fail for things to be a good story. However, experiencing a low point, as happens in pretty much every single major One Piece arc, except Wano, needs to happen, right? Right? They can all have one big raid where they succeed, as long as Luffy and the Straw Hats and the general protagonist experience some low point where things are difficult for them before they have their raid that succeeds. Hold on. Okay, so I'm looking at some dinner options here. What the hell? What even are these? Okay, I'm sorry. Hold Hold on. Let me answer one super real quick. Um, Count Dogula, thanks for the 2. I hope Kid wakes up and gets no diffed by Shamrock. That'd be fucking hilarious. Imagine Kid and Loki versus Shamrock. That'd be the funniest alliance of all time. Blazing Blue, thanks for the 5. Nolan and Kogara were humans that killed 2 god serpents, and in the first world, a god and a serpent killed humans and subjugated the world. Yeah, I think we can read a lot more. I think the serpent god of Skypiea tells us a lot, by the way, about Emu's story here, potentially. That's a good point, Blazing Blue. Charitar, thanks for the 2. Do we think all a Straw Hat will die? My money is on Chopper. If a Straw Hat dies, which I begin to believe is less and less likely as time goes on, if a Straw Hat is set to die, I do believe that Usopp would be the most likely. However, at this moment in time, I cannot imagine Oda actually going through it. I can imagine Oda going through with it, but like, it's just, Oda would need to nut up to do that. Dragonfire, thanks for the 2. Was Shanks crying because Roger told him his lineage? I think that is a solid possibility. That's a solid possibility. Shanks might have been crying because Roger told him his lineage. Let me ask this real quick, by the way. Hold on. Actually, never mind. No, never mind. I kind of want to get the gauge of what people are feeling looking at the mural. My thoughts on the mural, you will kind of get to understand more on Tuesday. But is the mural depicting upcoming Final War, Second World, War at end of Second World, blend of second/third, of first/second world, other. It can't be just the first world, right? It can't be just the first world. So I'm going to say upcoming Final War of Third World. Here. These are the options. So is the mural depicting, in your guys' opinion, what's coming in the future, the upcoming Final War? Is it depicting the war that, what do you call? War at end of, war that came at the end of the Second World, or is it depicting a blend of what took place in the First and Second World? It's so cool that we've got such a. Some people are saying it's all 3. Here, I'll throw all 3 as an option. If you think it's all 3, then just pick other. People are saying all 3 right to left. It's whatever. It is. Here, I'll do an all 3 option. That's supposed to be other, but like I didn't want to get into all of the combinations. Here, let me do this. One more time. What is mural depicting? First/second world, third world, upcoming war, all 3. How about that? Second World War, all 3. Here. Hoops, thanks for the 5. I think the king, the serpent, the dragon, and the demon are all part of Emu. I mean, if Vegapunk could do it, I could see Emu doing it. I guess I could see that, but then like you've got the Gorosei. I feel like the Gorosei would be that parallel. Okay, so a lot of people are saying all 3. I agree that it has elements of all 3. I do agree it has elements of all 3. I don't think it's as. I'm gonna leave it. Because I don't think it's as clear cut as what do you call the it's a simple right to left reading because of everything that we actually know took place. You know. Charitar, thanks for the 5. Could the sword and spear that Nika wields in his depiction be representations of Zoro and Sanji that fight for the modern-day Nika? That's a cool idea. That's a really cool idea. I think symbolically that's really interesting. I wonder if in the past there were Nika users that were sword and shield users. Damn, that's crazy that even Nika is just another Mihawk victim. That's crazy. Mihawk's strongest character of all time at this point. So sometimes Nika wields, yeah, he's depicted wielding different things. I think it's cool that he's a weapon user in other imaginations of people, but in reality, Luffy's terrible with weapons. Also, let's get the streamlights up to 600 because we're almost there. Sanji being the shield, I think, is an interesting idea. Zoro being the sword, Sanji being the shield. Symbolically, I think is an interesting idea. What is this? What type of food? Oh, I see. Hold on. Deciding if we're doing... never mind. Doesn't matter. All right. The GOAT, thanks for the 8. I think Blackbeard and Emu represent both of Luffy's dreams, and he needs to defeat each one to achieve it. King of Pirates equals beat Blackbeard. Secret Dream equals beat Emu. So, if you put a gun to my head right now and said, Morj, bet the house, what is happening with Blackbeard, right? What's happening with Blackbeard? What's happening with Emu? If you put a gun to my head right now and ask me what's the deal with that, I would say I personally feel that Luffy is supposed to beat both, with the Blackbeard fight probably coming first and then the Emu fight. But I think it's back to back, and I think that Blackbeard is going to be a more significant, difficult, prolonged, and personal struggle. And I think right after that, Emu is because like there's different types of if you look at Luffy's fight with NL, I imagine Luffy versus Emu might have a similar vibe where like all the people of the world, like everybody's helpless, no one can do anything against Emu, and Luffy and then Luffy emerges and Luffy can just like he fucks at Emu's shit up, right? Like cuz it's supposed to feel like this laughing, dancing sun god of liberation has arrived, just freeing the world, taking out the evil false god, just bringing a smile to everyone's faces. I think Luffy versus Emu, might be a very cathartic thing that happens. But I think the long, extended, difficult, gritty, dirty fight might be with Blackbeard first. So Emu could essentially be the final villain, but Blackbeard will be but that's almost more symbolic, if that makes sense. Whereas Blackbeard would be the true challenge for Luffy in his final, like the true challenging fight for Luffy. I think a lot of that goes to the fruits that Blackbeard will have, such as the darkness fruit that will make it very difficult for Luffy to use his Nika fruit properly. The fact that Luffy's fight with Blackbeard has been strongly implied to be very important for Luffy's haki, right? I think a lot of things will tie together in the sense that like Luffy and Blackbeard, or Blackbeard and Emu, I think would be back to back personally. And I think that in the process of defeating both, Luffy is achieving both things, becoming Pirate King and freeing the world, right? I think everything just will kind of click together in the way that Oda does so well. I'd say that there is currently a possibility that Luffy doesn't fight. There's no world where Luffy doesn't fight Blackbeard, right? Luffy always fights Blackbeard. There is a possible world where Luffy doesn't fight Emu, right? So the three options are basically Luffy fights Blackbeard and then Emu, Luffy fights Blackbeard and then Emu, or Luffy just fights Blackbeard, I guess there's two options, right? Option 1, Luffy fights Emu and then Blackbeard. Option 2, Luffy fights Blackbeard and then Emu. And option 3, Luffy just fights Blackbeard. Somebody else defeats Emu. I think those are the 3 options. I lean towards Blackbeard and then Emu back to back, but I just feel like it's going to be in a singular sort of run, like singular sort of storyline. Not, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it'll be separate arcs necessarily. And I think it will feel as though Blackbeard is our final big challenge in the story. And Emu will almost be like a victory lap for Luffy, kind of like he did Eno. That's my general feeling. Does that make sense? Solo Q God says, could be a Naruto situation, like I said before. Sasuke's Naruto's last fight after Kaguya. I just view that situation as so incredibly lame that I don't even want to consider it. Maybe Oda could do it in a way that I enjoy. Black Lightning, thanks for the 5. So, is no one going to ask? Okay, I'll do it. Did Nika have a black blade? Interesting. Nika's not depicted with a black blade in his drawings. Nika was not a black blade user. Does this mean that Mihawk, Ryuma, and Green Bull are all stronger than Nika? Interesting. Kid Smitty94, thanks for the 5. The right side is the first world. The left is the battle of both the second and third world. But Luffy will succeed at winning the war where Joy Boy failed. The right side, based on the things that we can clearly identify on the right side, is not just the first world. Based on the things that we can clearly identify, it is most certainly not just the first world. So I'll say that to begin with. I do agree that it's a blend depicting things from all 3 worlds. But again, watch Tuesday's video. It will become very clear very quickly that the right side functionally cannot just be just the second world. Or sorry, cannot just be just the first world. Mihawk greater than Nika? That's interesting. It's possible. Just kidding, it's not possible. I don't think. At least not the OG one. Hold on. Okay. I missed Charizard Super. Thanks for the thanks Tom Tom. Sorry about that, Charizard. Sanji's kicks are like spear attacks. Oh, Sanji's kicks are like spear attacks. That's interesting. I like the idea of being shield more. Zoro's sword, Sanji's shield. If we're doing like that. What's also interesting is that if you go back to Baratier, Zeph is teaching Sanji basically about like the spear of conviction that Luffy carries in his heart, I suppose, and he encourages Sanji to try and act the same. So that's an interesting little idea. I would lean towards the sword and shield idea, but that's a cool point, Charizard. Rima greater than Nika. I think I'm caught up there. Like the stream, everyone. Yeah, let's get it to 600 likes. Let's get it to 600 likes real quick. We're almost there. Let's get it to 600 likes. Also, yeah, just real quick, I don't want to, just for anybody who's still tuning in just now, I did not go over this full translation here, but this is the more correct translation compared to what TCB had. So what TCB is saying is that the earth burned in endless flame. That is not true. There was a flame on the land, but the earth was not all on fire. People succumb to desire. Man touches some sort of sun. So there's a forbidden sun that's touched. Then the sun god arrives. The slaves wished for him. He came after touching the sun. The god of the land is angry. And so is with the infernal serpent / snake, some shit happens. And then the world is basically wrapped / covered in death and darkness. They will never meet again. Okay? Second world. There is breath in the nothingness. The forest god sent out devils. Right? The forest god sent out devils. The sun is only spreading the embers of war. The half moon people saw a dream. The moon people saw a dream. The moon people saw a dream. This is important. Because TCB says, the ones who slew the sun defied themselves. That's not quite accurate. Man killed the sun and became a god is what happened. The sea god became fierce, unruly, rough/violent. They will never meet again. Finally, there's a void in the chaos, a void sentry. Troubled/helpless/troublesome remnants/leftovers of the past. Remembering the promised day, so that's the D tribe, etc. Listening to the voice of the moon fragments, D tribe. Sun god, Luffy shit coming up. Leading the worlds to its end, the sun returns. So this is a key point that I'm going to talk about in Tuesday's video in depth. Tuesday's video, for those of you who have not been listening, close to 40 minutes long, maybe even 40 minutes long. It is very, very, very thorough. It will answer a lot, pretty much all of this. A new morning will come. They will surely meet. I'm very, very excited for Tuesday's video to come out because it just clicks fucking everything together. TDM... wait. Kid Smitty94, thanks for the 5. The right side is the first world. The left is the battle of both the second and third world. But Luffy will succeed at winning the war where Joy Boy failed. Did I already respond to this one? I might have already responded to this one. Maybe I didn't say the final part of it. But yeah, it's there are things on the right side that make it clear that it's not just the first world. Again, it's a blend of things. And I do agree that Luffy will succeed at winning a war where Joy Boy failed. However, it's complicated because, like, it's not just about winning the war. What Joy Boy's goal was, what his dream was something that is tied back to something a little bit different, and that's really what Luffy needs to achieve. It's not just about winning the war. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Just like the Gorosei, Cerebear did not get a Devil Fruit name. Interesting. So Imu can maybe even grant weapons these yokai powers. That's a great point. I did not realize that, Akash Panda. Thanks, man. How'd you like the chapter, by the way? JWP, thanks for the 10. Thanks for the support again. I really like how this confirms the Skypiea gods. Only the god of the rain has been mentioned, correct? Has not been mentioned, correct? Yeah, if you want water, the sea god was mentioned, but the god of the rain was not mentioned. But yeah, the Skypiea gods, for those of you who don't remember, at the altar, we went through god of the sun, god of the forest, god of the land, all of these things. Also, I think it's clear that Oda figured out the main points of the world lore in Skypiea. That is the insane thing to me. That it's just like... that is the fucking insane thing, which is just the lore was all... Like, Oda already fucking solved so much of it way back then, and he's just been adding pieces. He's just been adding pieces since then. He's just been adding pieces. Also, this just reminded me of something else that I kind of want to add to the... I've already done the full recording, but now there's little bits and lines. There's little lines that I want to add in, little tidbits that just strengthen everything. Yeah, he had it all figured out so far back, and it's just embellishing little bits more and more. Gerence Rambo, thanks for the 2. Origin of Blackbeard theory comes from that there's 3 of him. Oh, I see what you're saying. You think that there's 3 Blackbeards literally? I don't know about that, though. RedX, thanks for the 10. In regards to final opponents, no one ever considers the 4th option. What if the answers are solved them at once? The final battle could be a battle royale, Blackbeard versus Emu versus Akainu versus Luffy. I've never thought about it being everybody against each other at once. I am leaning more and more now towards the final war, basically being like the final, like the big arc that concludes everything being everything all coming together and all factions fighting together. Whereas before I felt like we will do maybe Laugh Tale first, deal with Blackbeard pirates, and then move into the final war. Now I'm thinking it all just happens all in one go, and Oda's planning just this giant epic war to end everything. That's what I feel now. But I never considered, like Luffy versus Blackbeard versus Emu versus Akainu or something like that. But those are kind of the 3 most important matchups that I still feel like Luffy has to encounter over the course of the story. In terms of likelihood, I'd say Blackbeard, 100%. Like, technically anything happened. 99% chance Luffy fights Blackbeard. Solid 80+% chance Luffy fights Emu. I'm leaning at about a 50% chance Luffy fights Akainu. I do think my favorite version of the story would be if Luffy does defeat each of these opponents. Never considered it a battle royale, though. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 600 real quick, because we're almost there. Tejas Bharat says, does this disprove the Blackbeard Cerberus 3? I do think it disproves it, and I kind of like that, because I was hoping that Blackbeard would have a more interesting fruit. for his Zoan. And I like the fact that Blackbeard probably still needs to eat this final fruit to reach his full potential, because I don't think Blackbeard has his full potential yet, so I like the idea he's going to grow. And also just the fact that we've just been introduced to several potentially all-powerful types of fruits that are yet to be uncovered, right? King G, thanks for the 5. Rain and Sea God are the same. Sky people don't see the sea, so they interpret it as the Rain God instead of the Sea God. That's a great point. King G, amazing clarification. Thanks for the 5, by the way. Great point. I would agree with that. The Sky people. No, but the thing is, the Sky people, it was, no, because it was on the sea level at that point. Right? It was before it was launched into the sky. Juan B says, what role do you think Loki will play? So it's tricky because for a while I thought that Loki has eaten the fruit of Elbaf, right? And therefore Loki has some very powerful god fruits similar to the sun god fruit. Now things are becoming more possible that Loki does not, in fact, have such a fruit. It's possible Loki does not have a fruit like that because it's possible, timeline-wise, that the sun god fruit got away from Loki, ended up in the hands of the world government, because just timing-wise, Loki versus Harold was 14 years ago. Shanks got his hands on the Gomu Gomu no Mi like shortly afterwards. The world government had their hands on it. So now we don't know if Loki even actually has the sun god fruit. It's entirely possible that he doesn't. It's possible he has no fruit, but he's just he never claims that he has a fruit. He just says, I'm the sun god, right? But every giant dreams of being the sun god. It's possible Loki doesn't have a fruit. Sophia Music says, can you give me a shout out? Here's your shout out, man. Shouting you out. Evil Friend, thanks for the 5. A little behind. I don't know if anyone said this yet, but what do you think about Arc Maxim ship looking ship with the lightning bolt? That is supposed to represent Uranus. It looks a lot like the Arc Maxim, simply because that's what Maxim is supposed to represent in the story of Skypiea, in the context of the broader One Piece world. Like, Maxim was foreshadowing the idea of Uranus in the story. A great weapon from the sky that could fire energy down and erase islands. Wisdom Minari, thanks for the 5. What could poor Kobe possibly do to stop Luffy's dream? I don't think he could do anything against Gear 4 with Luffy with Advanced Conquerors Haki, let alone Nika. Yeah. I think Kobe's supposed to learn. Like, I don't think he's ultimately supposed to be a true rival to Luffy in his dream. I think Kobe is going to be a pivotal figure at the end of all this, but I don't think he's actually going to stop Luffy in any sense at the end of the day. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Luffy versus Akainu, Shanks versus Blackbeard and Dragon versus Emu will all happen simultaneously. Luffy will win and then move on to Blackbeard and Emu as they defeat their opponents. I do think that is very, very possible, with Akainu being mini boss 1 and then Luffy taking on Blackbeard and then Luffy taking on Emu in succession. I think that is a very, very, very strong possibility, Akash Panda. Oda always says he needs to find ways to keep Luffy out of the fray, because if Luffy gets into the fray too fast, then the story wraps up too quick. So that's a great possibility. Charitar, thanks for the 2. Could Shanks' recent visit be him returning Loki? You think no, because Shanks defeated Loki apparently like a long time ago. Like it was like 13 years ago, or no, 6 years ago, right? 6 years ago he defeated Loki. So Loki's been chained up at Elbaf for 6 years. So Shanks' recent visit was just him coming, to the bar downstairs and everything like that. Alvaro-san says, calling Akainu a mini-boss is crazy. In the grand scheme of things, at the end of the story, I think Akainu would essentially be a mini-boss, basically. In the grand scheme of things. Kobe will laugh like Roger. I don't know. I'm going to be calling stream in the next 5 minutes. TDM9 says, I don't think you read my super. Let me see. Sorry, man. Let me see. I'm going to be calling stream in the next 5 minutes, so get in any final thoughts here. TDM9, thanks for the 5. I think that Blackbeard defeats Emu. Oh, I didn't see this. I'm sorry. I think Blackbeard defeats Emu, then fights Luffy with a Zoan or similar powers from Emu to complete his set of Devil Fruits because Blackbeard's ambition is tied to Morishua. I think that would be a very, very interesting idea. I think that's a very, very interesting idea. And it would be a very, very powerful story for Dragon as well. I think that I love what that does for Dragon. TDN9. And thanks, Akash Panda. Charto, thanks for the 2. Oh, no, we covered this. Tom, thanks for the 2. Could Gunko be Usopp's opponent? Often fights women. Oh, that's a cool possibility. Usopp does, because he fought the mole woman. He fought he fought the mole woman. He fought Perona. He fought Sugar. That's an interesting possibility, and I think her drawing the arrows could play well into... Does that play into sniping or whatever? My random thought is just that Gunko, because like we're getting the Luffy Nami scenes right now, I wonder if Gunko is actually Nami's opponent because like she uses these arrows that kind of like establish a set route or direction if you think about it in advance. I'm curious how that would play into like Nami's abilities if you think about that. Or not abilities, like just thematically, like with Nami being all about route, direction, navigating, setting the course. It might be a stretch, but Nami always fights women if you think about that. Supersonic Squad, thanks for the 10. I thought of a few holes in Luffy having Herald's Fruit. How would Seastone bind him if he has no fruit? Wait a second. Luffy can't... I don't think that they would have had the Gomu Gomu no Mi, because if they did, then why would the Nika fruit? Because if that was the case, why would the Giants be confused as to what Nika is like? Because they would just know from King Harold's fruit, right? They would just know from King Harold's fruit that, oh, that's what Nika is like, right? We know what he's like. We just see the fruit. Unless Harold didn't awaken it. If Harold didn't awaken it, that makes sense. How would Seastone bind Loki? Oh, in Loki, yeah. How would Seastone bind Loki if he has no fruit? And shouldn't any of the Giants have noticed? They've all seen his fruit extensively. Yeah. It's possible that they just assumed Loki had the fruit. So he has some sort of a fruit then. Some sort of a fruit. Right? What would that fruit be? Like, why does he call himself the sun god if he has some other god's fruit? Seastone is also just very physically tough, right? It's possible Loki can't break out of it. I need to read Loki's lines again. Yeah, Tom says Seastone is super tough in general. Yeah. Cheritor, thanks to the 2. Could Akainu's Devil Fruit have been used to create the red line? Oh, that's a crazy thought. I would never have considered Akainu's Devil Fruit to be that powerful. Like, red line creating powerful. That would be just an insane level of power. And, like, would really add to Akainu's significance in the story. Oda's talked up the significance of Akainu's Fruit, too. Like, it's the strongest offensive power or something like that. That's an interesting thought. Alex, thanks for the 5. As cringe as it is, Zoro is the king of hell. Cerberus to me confirms Zoro versus Shamrock, as Shamrock guards hell, and this one is 3 swords. Maybe. I don't think... I think Zoro fighting a Shanks clone is just... I just don't view it as that likely. And again, I think it's much more likely that we see something like Luffy versus Shamrock or something like that, or even Loki versus Shamrock at this point. And the one thing is just that with Zoro versus Shamrock, again, Oda doesn't really have Zoro fight leaders, although it's possible Shamrock isn't the leader of the Holy Knights at this point, because the naming of his title is a little bit different than Garling's was. Orang Himbleton, thanks for 2. Who do you think Toki sent into the present? I don't fucking know, but if I had to guess, if it's a parallel to what happened with a little bit of, if it's a little bit of a parallel to what happened with Wano, and Wano's supposed to parallel the broader story of One Piece, it's possible Toki sent some other members of Jogo's crew. Cheritor, thanks for the 2. My last super chat was new. It was new. I think I covered it. Oh, no, yeah, I covered that one. Okay. Dragonfire, thanks for the 2. Admiral Logias represent 4 gods: light, forest, magma, ice. Ice. I think it's a little bit of a stretch. I don't know about ice. All right, guys. I think we are going to call it just about here. I'll give it 2 minutes just to see if you have any last questions. XDN00 says Zoro fights Garling, Emu second strongest. I think Zoro fighting Garling is an interesting possibility. The problem is that he's already been like thrown against Venus Jiro a little bit, so it's hard to say. Also, the tricky thing with Zoro fighting the second strongest is that like the further we've gone in the story, Oda's been messing with that a little bit, like because there's now so many significant side characters that also need to be fucking catered to. So, for example, Doflamingo's second, like, his right hand was Virgo, right? Virgo is the second strongest, and Law got to fight Virgo. Zoro got to fight Pika, who's probably third, I think most would agree, right? Pika was the strongest of the ones who were left, the seats that were left after Virgo was defeated, but technically I think Law beat Doflamingo's strongest subordinate. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Dragon or someone gets to fight Garling, and Zoro gets Venus Jiro. I don't know, but I've actually reshaped some of my thoughts in general, and I think it's possible that we don't see Zoro versus... I'm not even going to get into this. I think Zoro's final matchup is exciting. I think it's possible that I think there's a possibility that the Gorosei are all being saved for other characters that are not Zoro and Sanji, but Zoro and Sanji's opponents will still be very, very significant. I'll leave it at that. Prophet Gluten says Sanji fought Virgo as well, but he didn't defeat Virgo. I guess what I mean is Law is the one that got to defeat Virgo. The Shadow King 777 says, why wasn't Zunisha on the mural? I think a lot of people are pointing out that it looks like there is an elephant in the mural. If you look at the bottom right of the tree, it looks like there's something that is remarkably similar in shape to an elephant. Okay. Mantra says Virgo is part of a different arc, though. Yeah, he was part of a different arc. I'm just saying overall, getting to fight the strongest subordinate, that didn't really happen. And then by that logic, you could argue that in Punk Hazard, Zoro still fought the third strongest, which was Monet. Although I guess you could say Monet was Caesar's strongest subordinate, so in the context of Punk Hazard, Zoro did get to defeat the strongest subordinate. So that sticks with the trend of Zoro always getting to defeat the strongest subordinate of whoever Luffy is facing. I guess that's the correct way to say it. Zoro does always get to defeat the strongest subordinate of whoever Luffy is facing. That has been the trend so far in general. So yeah, maybe Zoro versus Garling, who knows? It's just, I don't know if the Zoro Shanks stuff, if it's ever going to really overlap. All right, everybody. I think we are going to... Okay, we've got 3 supers, and then I'm going to just call the stream here. 3 supers, and I'm going to call the stream here. No more supers. Jacob Anton, thanks for the 2. Luffy versus Shamrock while Zoro fights a sword. I think Zoro fans would absolutely hate that, but that would be very, very, very funny. Zoro actually having to fight a sword. Not a Pro 64. Not a Pro 60. I don't know why you spelled out your name like that. Not a Pro 64. Got the vibe Loki stole the fruit and they had it locked up somewhere or something, while, like it was seen as a holy relic. Oh, interesting. But then in that case, yeah, shit, what could Loki have eaten? That is possible, like Harold didn't have the fruit himself. Bwaka67, thanks for the 5. With Luffy's Devil Fruit Awakening becoming more important, do you think it can happen with others? I thought about the Mirror Mariner of Ace and was made fun of, lol. I would dislike if certain things that are clearly other fruits like Logia just start being revealed as being like secretly the Zoans that are of these gods and stuff like that. Because then it's like, okay, well then where is the actual Mirror Mariner meat? Like where's the darkness fruit, etc. So I would rather from here on, if there's any of these god fruits being introduced to the story, I'd rather they just be new fruits that we're learning about characters having. That's my personal preference, but I'm not saying it's out of the question. That's just a personal preference thing. All right, everybody. This was a fantastic stream. I am I'm insanely excited for next Tuesday's video. It is a extremely high effort video. This is about 40 minutes, very dense, goes through fucking everything, and I think comes to some very, very, very interesting connections. All my thoughts on what all of this means and what I believe the entire history of One Piece to be, including what is yet to come, is in that video. So watch out for that video. Some people have even said new things in this stream itself that have added additional context that makes me even more confident in the thesis that's being put forward in that video. So watch out for this next Tuesday's video. It is a huge one, very high effort project. I was definitely up all night working on that and today and over the course of the editing process. That's going to take up a shit ton of my time over the course of this weekend and Monday. So just watch out for that video. It's an important one. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's coming out this Tuesday. Unless it takes so fucking long, there's a small chance it gets delayed to Wednesday, but we are really, really trying to shoot for Tuesday. So watch out for that. And yeah, thanks for the support, everybody. I'm glad everybody enjoyed this chapter, and I will talk to you all later. Miss Supers. What Miss Supers? Hold on. Got to cover these Miss Supers real quick. Gosh, Panda, thanks for the 2. That's not Zoe. There's ores coming out of it. The ores are Noah, which is a separate thing. Assuming we're looking at the same image. There's ores coming out of it. Ores coming out of it. Are you talking about the top thing? Like the 2 little things out of the top? I think no matter how you spin it, it looks like an elephant's trunk. So we're going to call it Zunisha for the moment. We might get more context later on certain things that we have yet to understand. Gum Diesel, thanks to the 2. You can't tell me what to do. All right. Cheritor, thanks to the 2. Whatever happened to Monet's Devil Fruit? Lost to time. Lost to time. All right. I think I read the final supers. I still think it's possible that it's somewhere, it ended up somewhere on the Strahd's ship, just because when fruits disappear, they tend to transfer their powers over to nearby fruits. Is there any other super I'm missing? I think that covers everything. All right. I guess we're good. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I will talk to you all later.